Final instructions taking place here. This will be a fun one to start things off. Ronan McMahon Stags will lead off the Washington A team. Leo Young for Stanford, the sophomore. Justin Petrie, the Cal sophomore. Those are the first legs scheduled for the A teams. We've got Cole Lindhorst as well for Washington's B team. Reese Hammond, the Husky senior. It's going to be a fun heat to start things off, and I'm interested to see how this might shake up the top 12 of the national DMR standings. Right now, the top time in the country so far this year, 9:36.41. That was Virginia Tech at their home invitational about 3 weeks ago. The 12th ranked time this season, 11 seconds behind that, 9:47 from Texas A&M.
Well, and you take a look at the descending order of the top 16. Missouri is that sitting in that transfer position, number 16, and there are going to be all kinds of changes. Probably the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th team is in risk of getting bumped out of that top 16 this weekend, but Missouri sitting at 9:49. I'll tell you what, though, AJ, it would have been fun to see the Crater High School team run in this distance medley relay. We're going to see some of those Crater High School kids from Medford, Oregon in some of the open events, but they broke the national record last year, and their entire team is still almost put together this senior season there at Crater, but they're not listed here in the DMR. But when they run distance medley relays in the Pacific Northwest, the rest of the country watches.
No doubt about it. There are plenty of talented high school athletes that will be competing over the course of the weekend. Emily Wisniewski comes to mind, the North Carolina State commit out of Crescent Valley. She was third overall at Nike Cross Nationals. And, of course, Rodriguez, Mercer Island, heading to Wake Forest. We'll see those two and many more over the course of the competition. The men's DMR set to get going here. 3 Washington teams, Cal and Stanford. So some ACC and Big Ten representation to start us off at the Husky Classic. About to be a very different dynamic for the Big Ten Conference and the ACC with the incorporation of Washington into the Big Ten Championship, Stanford into the ACC. And the distance, background, pedigrees those bring, and don't sleep on Cal as well, obviously.
Well, and we've already seen some of the impacts of the conference realignment in the basketball standings and certainly in the football standings. You know, I'll call the SEC championships in a couple of weeks, and you know what's interesting when you go to the national standings, it's like, where is the SEC in the 60-meter dash? Where is the SEC in the 200s and the 400s? Just not as prevalent as they certainly used to be.
Let's have some fun this weekend. Men's DMR starts us off on the track here at the Husky Classic. McMahon Stags, Cole Lindhorst, Reese Hammond, the scheduled first legs for Washington. Young and Petrie for Stanford and Cal, and we're off.
Well, and the distance medley relay is always interesting because as bystanders, you can look back and you can say, you know, it really doesn't matter what happens in these first 3 legs. It always comes down to who's going to run the fastest mile at the end. But you've got to have guys that can keep you and ladies that can keep you in the race from the beginning. If you get too far back in the beginning, there's no chance. But if you can keep in contact and you can get that baton to your best miler on that anchor leg, gives you a chance not only win the race, but to run extremely fast.
Number 1200 starts us off, so a little bit over 3 laps here for these first legs, and it's Washington 1, 2, 3 to start us off.
And the 1200 meters always an interesting leg. You know, do you move an 800 meter runner up? Do you move a 1500 meter runner down? This is a problem that the University of Washington certainly does not have. They've got so many great middle distance runners. 9 guys under 4 minutes in the mile this year, and I think 5 or 6 years ago we were talking about them when they had 4 guys running under the 4-minute mile. But University of Washington just absolutely loaded and lots to choose from when it comes to this distance.
Well, it's become an annual headline where we just anticipate every year, what are Washington's middle distance runners going to do at Miles City? How many are going to break 4 minutes? You just expect it to be around a dozen at this point. It's so impressive what the Powells have built this program into. As the first leg here, the 1200 continues. And a nice 3-pack here for Washington as one's going to step off.
Well, and the in-stadium announcer, Paul Merka, he's sending me notes, and he said when you see an athlete or a team with a hip number 5, most times they're going to be the pacer. All right, so I think that number 5 team from Washington, as Reese Hammond, I think he was the one who stepped off, and I thought we'd get lucky this weekend and see names instead of numbers on those front bibs. It's a little easier to identify athletes, but there's so many athletes competing in this event. They had to give them all numbers.
So apologies if the order got shifted up. We're going by what was given to us in the order 1 through 4. So that lists McMahon, Staggs, and Lindhorst as the first legs for Washington. And again for Stanford, right behind that 2-pack, Leo Young, Justin Petrie listed as the first legs for Stanford and Cal. So we're coming up on our first exchange into the 400.
Well, when they came through the 800 meters, the leaders came through in 1:53, and that's a really spicy 800 meters on your way to a 1,200 meters. So good start for a couple of the Husky teams up front there. And this is such an odd change to go from a 1,200 meters to a 400 meters. These athletes really buzzing around the track, and you want to save your better 400-meter runners sometimes for the open, but in an event like this, you're loading up your team with your absolute stars in each distance.
It's like Ambadai Liggins, the 18-year-old, making a nice surge on the outside. They're neck to neck here, heading into the turn. A nice leg by both. Now Frazier on the inside. Jonathan Frazier, a little bit of... We got the exchange there in the end. Now onto the 800 leg before the mile will finish it off. Cal in third now with about a 15-meter gap on Stanford.
Well, 46.9 for Jonathan Frazier on that 400-meter leg. An outstanding quarter mile there.
This is O'Toole in front. Remember, Justin O'Toole just set the 600-meter facility record here at Washington. An impressive performance 2 weeks ago. We'll see how that translates to the other events he decides to focus on as the postseason approaches. Reinheimer's going to go by him in the turn here.
Well, and it almost looked like Kyle Reinheimer got the instruction from the coach, said, now it's your turn to take the lead, get out there and push the pace. And Justin O'Toole just settled right in behind, got on his shoulder, hitched his wagon to him, is letting him pull him around.
Looking to keep that 600 pace a little bit longer this time around. Easier said than done. Two teammates working together here in the final stages of their 800-meter leg. And even at the handoff into the mile, they're at 5:24 on that handoff. Nathan Green, Thomas Diamond. Diamond in front. 9:36, the top time in the country this season. So right now, a 4:08 would get under that.
Well, let's go back to that 800-meter leg real quick. Reinheimer, 1:45.9. Had a great, I guess I was going to say 4-lapper, but it's not a 4-lap on this track, but a great half mile there for the Washington Huskies to put themselves into position to just move right up those descending order standings.
Both these squads certainly on good pace right now to put themselves in an advantageous position on those rankings. None of the squads entering today had a mark, had a time to their name.
Well, there was so much conversation about how do we make track and field a little bit more exciting. Yeah, all you have to do is look at college track and field. The relays is what makes track and field exciting, and we're seeing that both in college and at the highest level. But I think the DMR at the NCAA championships, at the SEC championships, and some of these big meets really is a great way to bring the team together. We're also, I think the World Relays is a great example of, how do we make track and field more exciting? We just include the relays.
Right. Of course, the DMR bringing those different specialties together. Always unique and entertaining to watch here as Diamond and Green, stride for stride. 2 laps to go here. Just over 600 meters left at 7:46. Cal and Stanford out of the picture here. As Green perhaps ready to go on the outside now. And Diamond will step off. So this was all pacing duties for this A squad as Nathan Green, who has his own illustrious background already as a Washington Husky. 1 lap to go.
Well, Thomas Diamond did a wonderful job there. Great job of pacing with the idea that he was going to step up. Wasn't sure that he wasn't going to finish there, but Nathan Green moves up alongside of him. And you just don't want to have to run this last 600 meters, quarter mile by yourself. At least push them as far as they can. There you see Coach Andy Powell running alongside. I'm not sure that's legal, Coach, but he only took a few strides. But look at Nathan Green now just put his head down and drive to the finish.
Well, he had company until the final lap with 300 meters to go down the front stretch here. Nathan Green of Washington. What are the Huskies' final time going to be? Green crosses a 9:14 low. Wow, which is well in front of the top time in the country so far this season. Yeah, flash the baton. The Huskies, the top time in the DMR in the NCAA so far this season now with that performance.
Well, and we see Stanford come through right there at about 9:34. The other 2 teams there in this race could go under that Virginia Tech 9:36 time, but outstanding run for the Washington Huskies. And I'm sure that if Thomas Diamond decided to run 2 more laps, he wouldn't have been much farther behind. 9:14. I can't imagine that Washington B squad would have been less than much over 9:20. So
yeah.
Wow, look at those times: 14, 32, 33. Boom, right to the top 3 times in the country this year.
That is a DMR. That is a way to start things off. Yeah, how about the depth? Look at all the jerseys. Look at all the W's. They can all qualify for nationals. All the B and C teams here should have kept going. They were on pace to be in front of what was the top time as well. Just a showcase of the depth of this Washington program. Again, 9:14. Virginia Tech had the top time at 9:36, but how about this?
Well, and there's certain tracks around the country. You want to run fast in the sprints, you go to Fayetteville, Arkansas. But if you want to run fast distance races, you hit Seattle. You come to Seattle, 306-meter flat track. You're going to get fast times here. I expect we're going to see fast times this entire meet. There you see Nathan Green, the team leader, bringing it home for the Dogs.
A business-like performance and all smiles here in Seattle. And they're fired up, as they should be, after putting together a performance like that. Give credit to Cal and Stanford as well. They'll be happy with where they stand nationwide after 9:32 and 9:33.
And